So what are we going to do today? We're going to start off with a little reflection. We're going to recap on what we've got so far, and then we're going to do a strengths analysis. And I say start, beginning of a process. For those of you who I could call up, and can you please put your phone or your webcam on mute? Hello, hello. Thank you. All right. So, a mini reflection. I've asked you already, have you printed the strengths exercise? And please go away and do that if you haven't. This thing, one more time for anybody who was missing it. So, at Christmas, just before we ended our last webinar, I asked you to think about how you might avoid having a family row and how you might maintain peace. So, if you did manage to avoid this situation, please put something in the chat box now. And if any of you use the tools and would like to express how you use those tools, please could you stick something in the chat. Marie will be moderating, and then I'd love you to come off mute to talk about that if it suits you. So turn to each other, talk about how your Christmas was, whether you did or you didn't have a family row. And if you managed to avoid it, what did you do to do that? Because I have to tell you, do you remember at the end of the last webinar, I told you I was worrying about my mum and having a row with my mum. I didn't actually do that. I managed to maintain really positive relationship with my mother by using the tools I talked about. However, I forgot to factor my mother-in-law into the equation, and I'm afraid I did get irritated. So my bathroom got very cleaned because my coping mechanism was to leave the room. So I left the room rather than gave her the time of day because I'd used all my coping mechanisms up with my mum. I hadn't planned for my mother-in-law. So turn to each other, you've got a minute each. Okay. Oh, my webcam not on. Okay, my webcam's on.
Jessica, I can't find this chat box.
Chat box is down. If you are on the webinar, could you just go to, it says chat. You've got audio screen, webcam, and down at the bottom of that you've got chat.
Because obviously these are standalone sessions, but you can also do the standalone sessions which is linking it in and she'll link it in. So what we're supposed to do, talking about?
What you're talking about is how your Christmas was in pairs, 1 minute each. So Rowcroft, I can see you. You can't. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so just 1 minute. How was your Christmas? Did you manage to maintain family harmony? How did you do that? So I'm going to move on now. And I can still hear a phone beeping. So for those of you who are feeling a little bit tense because you thought of your family row or your mother-in-law like me, 2 mindful breaths. You remember I always give you a top technique, a top tool to take away. Let's just do 2 mindful breaths right now. So I'd love you to take in 1 deep breath and feel the breath coming up your body, and then breathe right out. Breathe the tension out through your hands. Shake your hands if you want to, and feel it all going out through your feet. And just feel your body relaxing into your chair, your bum right at the back of your chair. And take 1 more breath. Breathe out. There we go. That's 2 mindful breaths. So that's today's top tool. When you feel tense or when you feel something coming on for you that you would actually rather not be present with, just 2 mindful breaths is the takeaway tool for today. So we go with our recap now. We started the program by thinking about what resilience is, and this was the description that I gave you, my description of what I think resilience is, and it's about this ability to bounce forward in a psychologically healthy manner. And then we talked about the model, and that we're basing everything that we do on this model. So this is Van Istendaal's Casita Model, which looks at resilience in terms of a house, and the foundations, the family and friends, what we experience at Christmas, which support us and create tension at the same time, are incredibly important for us to feel resilient in, so that we know that we have that support. And in the ground floor, it's where we discover and we make meaning. And part of what we're doing today in thinking about strengths is deriving meaning from those strengths. And we take that into the first floor, because when we're aware of what our strengths are and we use them intentionally, it builds our self-esteem, and it creates a real lovely link with our skills and competencies. You don't have skills and competencies unless they are rooted in strengths. And that allows you to move up to the attic to have these other experiences. So each time I keep coming back to this Casita model to explain how what we're doing fits into it. So that's the Casita model. And we've worked through understanding your whole self, harnessing energy, and today's talking about strengths. And in a little bit more detail in each of those, managing your whole self, we did with the Wheel of Life. And thinking about strengths is a really lovely way to come back to your Wheel of Life, if you did it before, to think, okay, given my strengths and the areas that I think I'm doing well in, so for example, using this Wheel of Life would be somebody's work, so you can see that red is right up there, they're doing well. But they might like to bring a strength that they have to learning in order to boost that up. So this is how you can use strengths to apply to all the other pieces of the program that we've been doing. So there's managing your whole self. In the previous two sessions, we've also talked about using the GROW model, and I said that I would, with Marie, run a separate session on how to use GROW in more detail, and we're planning to do that in the next few months. So this is the GROW model, where you think when you coach peers, or anybody in fact, could be somebody at home, someone at work, think about the goals that that person wants, the reality of the situation for them, the options they have to manage it, and then what they want to do about it. So that's the GROW model, and we talked about that. And last time we thought about energy, and this time of year it's really tough, I think, really tough to have high positive energy. I'm sure you've put a lot in to Christmas, and then the days are still short, the tasks are long, the money's tight, and you're thinking, wow, I've got a few more months of this. And lots of you sent back your energy analysis to me, and here are some of the models that you sent back. So thank you very much for sharing. I think it's wonderful that we can, as a community, share the work that we've done. So this is what we've been working on so far. So moving on to strengths, what we're going to do today. Well, first of all, you need to think why strengths and what they are. So just as a reminder, quite a lot of people confuse a skill and a strength. So I thought I'd start with explaining that a strength is something innate. You have a natural disposition for it. So, for example, you might be really good at languages, and that's an innate thing. But a skill would be that you speak German really well, and you acquired that through practice, support, learning, and using the language. Right? You're not born speaking German, but you have a strength for languages. So the skill is what manifests itself as a result of what you're doing. So a skill and strength are different. Now, why use strengths? Well, I've just very briefly outlined some of the research here, and I'll put it on the WhatsApp group, a little research paper that's been done by CAP, C-A-P-P, but it's well known that if you manage to use strengths, you experience less stress and you are more resilient, which is obvious. You're working off what's easier for you. You're more energized. It doesn't take up so much energy. When you're working off the back foot all the time and off weakness, it takes a lot more effort. So if you remember the energy matrix that we thought about last time, it's going to lead you to depletion of resource more quickly. And of course, you're more confident. You know what you're doing is good. And that will obviously lead to better performance. It's easier for you. And that makes you feel good. You know, you know that you're doing what you should be doing. Right? Your performance is good. But for me, the most important thing about a strength is that these things are transferable tools. So, for example, creativity has always been one of my top strengths. And I could bring creativity to dealing with my mother-in-law. I could bring courage, which is a second strength, to dealing with my mother-in-law. So I take these strengths and I think purposefully, mindfully, how do I take my strengths into a situation? So that's why strengths are very important. So what are we going to do today? Now this is, I know that some of you are going to go, ah! You don't need to, you just stick with the process. So if you could now grab your hand out, and we're going to ignore step 1, we're going to ignore step 2. So you're going to move straight to step 3. And in step 3, that means looking through all the strengths that are listed here and here. Okay, all the strengths that are listed, and you're going to pop the strengths which are listed here, here, and here. You're going to write them down here. So you're going to select a maximum of 12 and a minimum of 8, so that you get a completed matrix that looks like this of your strengths. Now, I recommend you do this. I'm going to only give you 5 minutes to do it. But so what I recommend you do is you just scan down here, and you don't bother. You scan down here, and you don't bother with all the descriptions. Okay? Only read those descriptions if you get truly stuck. And if something's missing, add it in there anyway. So that's what we're going to do. You've got let's give you 4 minutes, and that's what it should look like at the end. So by my clock, I make it, 2:15. Let's take 4 minutes to do that. All right, what we're going to do now is this. So you're going to pair up. For those of you working alone, I'm sorry, you're not going to find a pair. But everybody else is going to be in a pair. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and you are going to give it to your partner. Right? So I've got Marie here. So Marie and I are going to lean together, lean here. And I'm going to give my paper to Marie. And what you're going to do, everybody, I hope you're paying attention. Rowcroft, hello. What you're going to do is so you've given your page to somebody else, and your partner is going to ask you to compare each item with each other item. So you're going to compare A to B, A to C, A to D, A to E, like this. So Maria's got my sheet. We're going to do this. Jess has got in A, creativity. The box has got A and B. B is drive. I'm going to ask her, out of creativity and drive, which do you see as your preferred strength? So the preferred strength that makes me happiest and highest performing at work is creativity, A. So I've just circled A. So is it creativity? So is it creativity and consistent? Or consistent box? Right. So is it creativity or being consistent? It's C. So I'm going to circle the C. Yeah, the C in that box there. So creativity or humour? It's humour. So it's D for me. So I circled box D.
And you go down it all and down.
Hang on, please mute yourselves. I go down now to E and I say, Jess, is it creativity or loyalty that you feel is your strength? It's loyalty. So I'm going to circle E. So you compare everything to everything else, and then when you get in the swing of it, you do it really fast. So hang on. So doing it really fast means doing it at this pace. Creativity or openness? Openness. Creativity or learning? Learning. Creativity or courage? Courage. Creativity or generosity? Generosity. Creativity or optimism? Optimism. Creativity or integrity? Integrity. So you do it really quick. You don't do it with a load of thought. You do this really fast because you don't need to think about it. If you can't answer, just leave it and move on and then come back at the end. Okay, so you've got 5 minutes to do that, and we need to be, I'm going to be quite tough about the timing now because we've got 25 minutes left or so. So 5 minutes max to do this. So I'm going to move on. So when you've done this, one of you've done it, when you've done it, you're going to hand the sheet back to its owner, and they're going to count up all the different how often the strengths were repeated. So you're going to count up. So you can then write down. So you've got mine here. You can see on the next slide, I've counted up at the end. If you look at the end of the matrix, you can see at the end, I've counted them all up there, which is easiest for me, but you can also put them in the grid under step 6. So whatever it is like for you. And if you get a tie break, you get a tie break. So for example, I've got optimism and openness. They both got a 6 at the end. If you get a tie break for your top 1, 2, or 3, you might just say, okay, which of these makes me happiest and highest performing at work? Is it optimism or openness? And I know for me, it would immediately be optimism. So that's how I would break a tie break. And then you put them 1, 2, 3 down to 12, however many you did, in the order. So I've got here courage, integrity, and generosity. And what's interesting for me is when I did this exercise, the first 2 I put down were creativity and drive because they absolutely define me. But at the moment, for me, they are strengths overused. I have used a lot of creativity and a lot of drive this year. Actually, I want to let those go into my pool of strengths. And I do believe you have a pool of strength which situations do you respond to, and you pull them up out of the pool and you work on them as you are required to use them. I don't believe your strengths are fixed, determined, that's it for life. And I do think you can take yourself down a really wrong path if you constantly use the same strength. That's called road to catastrophe. Because if I'm being creative in a situation which, like a crisis, it's no good. You might just want to deal with a crisis and not bring 15 different ways to potentially deal with it. So you need to think carefully about what strengths you have in the context that you're in and the role that's required of you. So you're going to add up the tie breaks, and then you're going to, when you've worked out, if you need to finish the exercise for each other, please do finish it. And then I'm going to give you 20 minutes now. So please use the time in your pairs as you need to. If you need to go through the exercise and finish it because only one partner has done the strengths exercise, just take your time. And then I'm going to ask you to answer these 3 bullets. What confirmations or surprises have you had? In what way does your role play to your strengths? And how might you better or differently use your strengths and apply them in stressful situations? So, for example, for me, with courage, with my mother, I've never challenged my mother-in-law. And I did this exercise just before Christmas. And I thought, okay, let's take courage. And I asked my mother-in-law, this is quite simple. What she does is she gets passive-aggressive. I love her to bits, but if she doesn't want to do something, she just goes, and she didn't want to watch a movie, she wanted to watch the news. So I thought, come on, Jess, grab that courage and say to her, could she possibly watch what we as a family all wanted to watch, and we would then go back and on iPlayer watch the news. And that was the first time I've actually taken the courage to challenge her. And I have to say, it made me feel slightly sweaty because, in 30 years I haven't done it. And what she did was pull a face and went up to bed. So it didn't work, but I tried. And then I felt quite pleased with myself that I had actually taken something which was a strength for me and done something new, done something which was different. So I'm going to give you 20 minutes now, and then we're going to come back together. So 20 minutes from now is 10 to 3.